Over some vocabulary that will help you complete homework for section 1.2. This vocabulary pertains to sample methods. The first definition is a population. The population is the group of all possible observations that can be made. If I want to include every member of the population, the sample method I could use is called a census. That means I study every single individual in the population. The sample frame is what I would use as a list or a group of individuals from whom the sample is actually selected. It should match the population of interest. So if I was going to do a telephone survey, I might use this telephone book as my sampling frame. Since most census are too expensive to actually complete or too difficult, most census ends up being an attempted census. That means the study attempts to include every single individual, but is restricted by time, money, willingness of individuals to participate, and accessibility. 3 problems that arise when taking a census is that they take a long time, and time costs money because you're paying people to go out and actually conduct the survey or conduct the study. They are expensive. The population changes by the time you are done. So you can imagine if we were going door to door in Santa Ana to ask people a survey question, that by the time we finished, that some of the people might have moved or left Santa Ana, new people might have moved into Santa Ana. A simple random sample is a sample where every group of individuals has the same chance of being selected as every other group of the same size. This is achieved by sampling at random and without replacement. A stratified sample divides the population into groups that share characteristics called strata, selecting steady participants at random from within each of those groups. A cluster divides the population into mixed groups that are similar to that of the population, and we randomly pick groups and ask every individual in the selected groups to be in our sample. So a stratified sample divides the population into groups and then randomly picks from those groups. A cluster sample divides the population into mixed groups and picks several of those groups randomly, but then does a census in each of those groups. We're going to talk about that more. A systematic sample takes an organized but not random approach to the selection process, as in picking every nth name on the list. So maybe I had a list of students and I pick every 10th name. That would be an example of a systematic sample. Multi-stage is a combination of any of the sampling techniques above. Some variables we can stratify by are gender, race, income, county, or state that you live in. The main difference between a stratified sample and a cluster sample is that in a stratified sample, the strata, everyone looks the same. Everyone shares a characteristic. Whereas in a cluster sample, everyone is a mix of individuals. And we hope that mix looks somewhat like the mix of individuals in the population. So 2 other types of samples are voluntary response. In a voluntary response sample, the individuals select themselves for the study. And another type is a convenient sample. Convenient sample is where you ask those people that are easiest to ask. Those maybe are friends and family. Now both of these clearly will result in biased results. Some examples of voluntary response samples are online polls and call-in surveys. Question 5 says, why are voluntary response samples biased? The samples tend to be comprised of individuals who have a strong opinion about an issue. In general, who is most likely to be missing from the sampling frame? Well, undocumented immigrants or homeless people might be less willing to have themselves included in official documents that are commonly used as a sampling frame.